Would you please state your name?
Nora Prekaleze.
Do you mind if I call you Nora? Because I don't want to mangle your last name like everyone mangles mine. Is that okay with you?
That is absolutely fine.
All right, I appreciate it. Nora, what do you do at Contour Companies?
I am the Vice President of Operations.
For what company exactly?
For Contour Companies as an umbrella. We have a lot of different entities and different divisions, so.
Okay, so there's Contour Companies is the parent company way at the top.
Essentially.
And then under that, you have a company like Contour Eastwick, who's the defendant in this case, that owns an apartment complex, right?
Correct.
And then there's Contour Management that manages properties.
Correct.
Okay. So you're vice president of that parent company, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you're also involved at a property level. Like I know you had some responsibilities for this specific property, Contour Eastwick. Is that right?
Not necessarily the property level, no. What are you referencing when you say property level?
The decisions made at that property when you owned it, when your company owned it.
No, not at the property level.
Okay. So like a decision like security, the things that involve security and keeping tenants safe and guests and your employees. Were you involved in those decisions?
No, I was not.
I'm going to share my screen with you. And I'm going to show you an email. Can you see the email that I have up on my screen?
I do, yes.
All right. This email is from you, correct?
Correct.
It was sent on July 18th, 2018 at 3:01. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, correct.
And the title is Security. Do you see that?
Correct.
And you sent this to Latasha Dia, who is the regional manager and had Contour Eastwick under her purview, right?
Correct.
And it was to your dad, Pete, and your brother, David.
Correct, Pete and David.
And in this email that you wrote titled Security, you said, I'm preparing to get security cameras installed in the leasing offices of the below should any others be added, and Eastwick was one of the properties, correct?
Correct.
So you did have some decision-making power and some decision-making authority about Eastwick and security decisions.
No, not necessarily. Those were in regards to the leasing offices. And I believe we explored cameras in the leasing offices. Those properties are all in different states and, we operate out of Michigan. So I think it was a conversation of, having a view of your staff essentially from a distance, but I don't think it was anything regarding security.
What kind of cameras were you proposing that get installed?
I'm not sure on the specific of the camera.
Well, let's read it. It says, I'm preparing to get blank cameras installed. What's that word?
It says security, but I don't know that we're calling them security cameras. I think it's just, in a conversation, what you would call them as a security camera.
And what's the title of your email?
Security.
But this email isn't about security?
It's about getting cameras in the leasing office.
And then Latasha Dia responds, glad we are finally taking this step. I'm on board with what you all decide. And your brother gives a thumbs up. You see that?
Okay, yes.
Y'all didn't install these security cameras, did you?
I don't remember if we moved forward with doing that.
The truth is you never installed security cameras at Eastwick, did you?
I am not sure. I honestly can't recall if we ended up moving forward with that.
Have you ever seen video footage from Eastwick?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of any cameras inside the leasing office, outside the leasing office, at the gate that didn't work, or anywhere else?
No, no.
Nora, back in April of 2021, during this lawsuit and for purposes of this lawsuit, you testified as the corporate representative. Do you remember that?
I did.
Alex Brown in my office, you all spent a couple hours together virtually like this. He asked you a lot of questions. And do you remember during that deposition, you were giving answers on behalf of Contour Eastwick?
I do.
Yeah, you were kind of like Contour Eastwick's spokesperson to speak on behalf during that deposition. Do you remember that?
I do.
And preparation for that deposition, when you were the spokesperson, you looked at all of the incident reports that Contour Eastwick had at its property, right?
Correct.
And you made a list, or at least with that information, you or your lawyers made a list of all those prior crimes where you had incident reports, right?
Correct. A list was made.
I'm going to share with you that list. Can you see the list, the chart that I have up on the screen?
I do see it.
All right, so Contour Eastwick had the following incident reports at the property for crimes that happened there. And this is all before Kisha Frazier was shot and killed. On November 21st, 2017, there was a discharge of firearms, correct?
Correct.
On December 24th, 2017, there was a discharge of firearms, correct?
Correct.
On December 29th, 2017, there was a discharge of firearms and another report of a person armed with a discharge of firearm, correct?
Correct.
On March 2nd, 2018, there was a narcotics violation.
Correct.
On March 20th, 2018, there was a person armed on the property.
It says person armed. I don't know about on property, but okay, correct.
Well, Contour Eastwick would have incident reports for things that happened on the property, right?
Essentially, yes.
On March 23rd, 2018, there were 2 different incident reports for discharge of firearms, correct?
Correct.
The next day, on March 24th, 2018, there was a burglary on the property.
Correct.
On April 8th, 2018, there was a person armed on the property.
Correct.
On April 21st, 2018, there was another narcotics violation.
Correct.
On April 23rd, 2018, there was another discharge of firearms.
Correct.
And just to be clear, when I say, well, when you said discharge of firearms, that's someone shooting a weapon, correct? A gun.
I would assume that's what that means.
Then about a week later, on April 29th, 2018, there was a person armed who was apparently shooting a gun with a discharge of firearms, correct?
Correct.
On May 2nd, 2018, there was an armed person who had a domestic situation.
Correct.
Okay. On May 4th, 2018, there's a report of a person shot, correct?
Correct.
And in that shooting, one of your security guards, Wendell Johnson, was shot at on the property, correct?
I don't recall.
You don't remember one of your security guards getting shot at on May 4th, 2018?
No.
Do you remember that your security guard shot back and killed someone on the property on May 4th, 2018?
I do not.
The next day, the very next day, after that happened, there was a report of another person armed, correct?
Correct.
2 weeks later, on May 21st, there was a report of 2 reports of somebody shooting guns, correct?
Correct.
On May 25th, there was another report of someone firing a gun.
Correct.
On May 31st, 2018, there was a report of a person armed.
Correct.
On July 11th, there was a report of a discharge of firearms.
Correct.
On July 16th, there was a burglary at a residence.
Correct.
On July 25th, 2018, there was another discharge of firearms.
Correct.
On July 29th, there was a report of a person armed on the property.
That is correct.
On July 30th, 2018, another armed person.
Correct.
This is a gun-free property, right?
Yes.
On August 12th, 2018, and August 13th, there were narcotics violations.
Correct.
On August 17th, there were 2 reports of discharge of firearms, correct?
Correct.
On September 7th, 2018, a person was shot at the property.
Says person shot, but correct.
Do you know the details of that shooting?
No, not offhand.
On September 16th, 2018, there was a report of a discharge of firearms.
Correct.
On September 26th, 2018, there's a report of a discharge of firearms.
Correct.
On September 29th and 30th, there were more reports of discharge of firearms.
Correct.
A week later, on October 5th, 2018, another discharge of firearms.
Correct.
On October 9th, 2018, there was a narcotics violation.
Correct.
The next day, on October 10th, 2018, another person armed and shooting a gun.
Correct.
On October 24th, there's a burglary.
Correct.
On November 6th, a person armed shooting a gun.
Correct.
On November 12th, 2018, more gunshots.
Correct.
On January 4th, and there's 2 reports of this, of a person armed.
Correct.
You can't tell us whether that's 1 person and 2 reports or 2 people and 2 separate reports, can you?
Couldn't tell you.
But 10 days later, on January 14th, 2019, there's another person who's armed and he's firing a weapon.
Correct.
And then on February 12th, 2019, another person armed, right?
Correct.
And obviously that last check location, that was Kisha Frazier's death, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know when Miss Frazier was killed on the property?
I don't know if that's what that is. Check location. It doesn't.
I have no further questions.